It's a part of the lore of the American West that disputes between men were settled in contests of skill and of courage. Today, ESPN and the Camel GT have come to the heart of the Old West, to San Antonio, Texas, to relive the frontier days as two men seek to settle a question as old as the frontier itself. Who is fastest? Since the beginning of the '87 season, Chip Robinson has been fastest gun, driving his Porsche to a championship lead of nearly 50 points. But in the last 5 races, Bryce Cobb has come on strong, pulling to within 12 points of Robinson in the championship, and it's high noon in San Antonio. It is a hot day in the heart of Texas as the International Motorsports Association Camel GT cars journey to San Antonio, Texas. The temperature is reaching up toward 90 degrees, high humidity, and very little breeze to help these drivers. The cockpits are enclosed and the temperatures inside may reach 150 degrees. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Barsha, along with one of the world's great race drivers, David Hobbs, to provide analysis of today's Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. And David, aside from the heat, the drivers are going to have to attack a very challenging race course.
It's going to be a very physical race, Bob, there's no doubt about it. Street courses are tight, always. This one seems to be very, very bumpy, which is already worrying some of the drivers physically. It's also extremely slippery, which I think is partly because these streets don't get washed off with rain much down here, so there's a lot of oil from everyday traffic out there. And there's been an awful lot of people slide into an awful lot of barriers this weekend, doing a lot of damage already. So it is going to be physical, and as you've already said, the heat here is going to be a big factor.
A tough course, but it's a great championship battle. Bryce Cobb and Chip Robinson ready to go at it.
Well, it certainly is. Chip had a tremendous lead not so many races ago, but Bryce Cobb, through some very good results, has whittled that down to a mere 12 points, which is not very many. And then in the Camel Light class, we've got 5 drivers, any one of which could still win that championship with only 3 rounds to go, this being one of them. So it's going to be a tight race today.
After a spirited qualifying round yesterday, Cyril van der Merwe put the Corvette he will share with Doc Bundy on the pole. For more on that story, let's go to our pit reporter, Marty Reed.
Thanks, Bob. Hello again, everyone. You know, usually we talk about who wins the pole, but rarely do we talk about how it was done. Yesterday was the epitome of qualifying. It all started when Cyril van der Merwe crashed the #1 Hendrick Corvette into the wall at pit exit. Damage was extensive to the car. They had less than an hour to turn around, bring out the number 22 car. Cyril went out. Not only does he lower the time, but he goes to 1:07, a full 1.3 seconds quicker than the Rob Dyson machine driven by Johnny Dumfries. It was amazing. He came back in, and it's no wonder they call him the king of qualifying.
Okay, thank you, Marty. In fact, that is Cyril van der Merwe's 4th pole of the year, breaking a tie with Elliott Forbes Robinson and Chip Robinson. We're looking forward to a great race. Back at San Antonio, Texas, Bob Barsha and David Hobbs with you as the cars roll off, anticipating the start of the Nissan San Antonio Camel Grand Prix. As the cars make their pace laps to warm up tires and engines, let's take a look at how this 1.67-mile racetrack lays out. David?
Okay, well, we start off on Market Street, which in actual fact is the start line only, not the start and finish. We come down into what will be turn 1 in the race, which is a sharp right-hander going onto Bowie. And there's a sweeping, as you can see, it sweeps left, right, left again. Very fast section through here, pretty bumpy. The road's got a lot of crown to it, and it's also very, very slick. At the end of this long, fast sweeping left-hand, of course, we sweep right and come humming right on down there to turn 6, which is going to be a true hairpin. It's about nearly 160-degree hairpin. Very sharp, very tight, and very narrow. On exiting that, on Durango, on acceleration, we go over some pretty fierce bumps, and the cars reach their top speed on this track, which is about 165 miles an hour. Halfway down Durango, there's a very quick left-right flick through the chicane as we come back to Alamo Street, which is where the real start-finish line is. That corner there, that right-hander's very slick on the approach and very slick down Market Street in front of us.
Very, very difficult race course. Before the race began, the promoters thought we might see speeds of an average of about 90 to 100 miles an hour, a good bit under that. Here's how they line up for today's Nissan Camel Grand Prix in San Antonio. On the pole at just under 90 miles an hour, Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy in the Corvette GTP. Alongside will be Bryce Cobb in the middle of that big championship battle with Chip Robinson. Cobb will be partnered by John Cullum, Creighton, the Scottish Earl known to the world as Johnny Dumfries. Row 2 will be Chip Robinson. He will get in the car after two-time world champion Derek Bell gets out. Bell will start one of the 2 cars for the Hobart Racing team. Outside will be the Nissan. Elliott Forbes Robinson to start. John Morton will get in later. On row 3, inside will be Gianpiero Moretti. Whitney Gantz will start. Moretti will follow in the Buick March. Outside, Al Holbert will lead off. A.J. Foyt to follow in the Holbert 962. Row 4 will have Jim Adams leading off in a Porsche 962. John Hotchkiss to follow him. Outside will be Bob Wallach in the BF Goodrich Porsche, our camera car. Darren Brassfield will be his partner today. On the pole in the Camel Lights class will be David Loring in a Mazda Taiga with Tom Hessert to co-drive on row 5 alongside Skeeter McKittrick and Tom Winters in a Pontiac Fiero. Row 6 will have Steve Durst leading off with Mike Brockman to follow in another Fiero, Chip Meade and Tim McAdam in a Porsche Fab car alongside. Row 7 on the inside will be Howard Cherry and John Higgins in another Porsche Fab car alongside Jim Downing and John Mafucci, also involved in that Camel Lights championship battle. Row 8 will have Ron Canizares and Bill Wolf sharing a Buick-powered Taiga alongside Don Bell and Jeff Klein in another Pontiac Fiero. Greg Hobbs will start the Gebhardt BMW along with Gary Robinson in the inside of row 9. Bill Jacobson and singer-songwriter Christopher Cross in a Mazda Taiga will be on the outside of row 9. And the final row, row 10, will have Jim Rothbarth and Charles Morgan, who have brought their Pontiac Fiero car back after a tremendous crash in qualifying yesterday. Kim Campbell and Al Mitchell will be alongside in a Mazda Argo. Now, we mentioned that there is a championship battle going on here at the San Antonio Grand Prix, and so scoring will be very important as the day goes on. There is 20 points to be won here as we drive with Bob Wallach in our... If you're joining us, welcome to San Antonio, Texas for the inaugural running of the Nissan San Antonio Camel Grand Prix. Bob Barsh and David Hobbs with you. Marty Reed is on pit road. You're watching the cars making their final warm-up lap of this 1.67-mile circuit. We expect to get a green flag when they finish this lap. David, we mentioned at the top of the show that there is a championship battle going on here. Here are the way the points will be scored today. First for 20 points, second is worth 15, third 12, fourth 10, fifth is 8. They will score all the way back to 15 places, and you know the fans of Price Cobb and Chip Robinson are going to be keeping score throughout.
Well, you can see there with 20 for a win and 15 for second, the 12-point lead at this stage in the series is not all that much. All it needs is a bit of a slip, coming about 6, and the other guy wins the race, and there's the 12 points gone. Here they are coming onto the start-finish line. It's only the finish line at the moment. They've got to go through this, down past pit. There's the pits on the inside there. Sorrow van der Merwe and Price Cobb getting the tyres warm just one more time. Hard to warm them up on this road. It's so slick.
In fact, I talked with Jim Busby, who runs the BF Goodrich Porsche team, our camera car for today's race. He said his race tires are getting hotter sitting on the curb in the sunshine here at San Antonio than they're getting on the race car.
Once they get driving, the air blowing past them cools them down. Here they come into what would be the last turn, turn 11. They're turning onto Market Street now, ready to take the green flag.
And George Ridenauer stands in the street with the green flag, and we're underway, very much like a Formula One start. And Price Cobb jumps out to the lead over Cyril van der Merwe. Behind him, Derek Bell takes a shot at van der Merwe as they make the first turn. Remember, it is very tight here in San Antonio. Here's the fastest part of the race course.
These are those sweepers, turns 3, 4, and 5. This long right hand, then a left. More right, and then you have a straight shot down to the hairpin. It's a tight hairpin. They've had to repatch the apex of it. There you see the hairpin coming down the inside. Good shot there.
Here's the view that Bob Wallach has from inside. He is following Whitney Gantz in the Buick-powered Momo March, and you can see just how tight it gets as they make their way onto Durango Street and head up towards Alamo. This is not a racetrack, folks. This is a temporary circuit. These are streets that cars like you and I drive manage every day of the week, but today they are given over to racing as Bob Wallach has just cleared the chicane. Now he'll pass the pit entrance, sharp right-hand turn onto what is now the front straightaway past the flag stand, and this is where we saw most of the action yesterday.
Yeah, it gets very rough just as you go past the flag stand there. There's an intersection, and the road's got a big crown through that chicane, very tight, just like going through a letterbox. They come down to the last turn here. He's making ground on one of the low and brown Porsches. I think that's the car number 1. He caught up a little bit on that lap. He passed Moretti, as we saw earlier on, or Whitney Gantz driving it. Anyway, that's the Buick-powered March car coming down into turn 1. Clearing that apex.
You got a good look at the grandstands in the back. A big crowd on hand for this first ever San Antonio IMSA Camel Grand Prix race. They expect some 40,000 people on hand for today's race, and I'd say, judging from these packed grandstands, they're probably going to get very close to that. once again on the fast section. You see Bob Wallach making his way down now under heavy braking as the track narrows down. Now here are your leaders, and look at the lead that Bryce Cobb has opened up as they head into the chicane. Cyril van der Merwe follows in the black Corvette. Behind him, the number 14 car of two-time world champ Derek Bell. Elliott Forbes Robinson in the red and blue number 83 Nissan.
I must say that yesterday in qualifying, Cyril van der Merwe did an absolutely outstanding job to put that 22 Corvette on the pole. But the number 16 car of Bryce Cobb and Johnny Dumfries looked extremely quick, and it did look slightly steadier and a bit easier to drive, quite honestly.
There you see what the drivers are having to deal with on this very tight 1.67 mile race course. You mentioned, David, it was a tremendous qualifying session. This is not a racetrack. I will reiterate once again, these streets needed to have rubber put down. They needed a lot of miles by a lot of race cars before the drivers could find traction. Virtually every lap driven by the top drivers in the top cars was faster than the one previous. Van der Merwe on the very last lap of qualifying copped a pole worth $5,000 here in San Antonio.
There isn't last a bit of rubber going down on this track because it is incredibly slippery here. All the drivers complain very much about it. I don't know why it's so slippery compared to other street circuits, but it just is. And they took a long time to get up to speed, any sort of speed at all.
Part of the problem, one of the drivers told me, was a layer of concrete dust from all of the construction going on in the park that forms the center of this racetrack. It's called Hemisphere Plaza, part of a World's Fair in years gone by. A lot of construction and renovation going on in the beautiful town of San Antonio. A lot of construction dust on the racetrack contributed, I think, to that slipperiness. There we watch the number 14 car, that's Derek Bell, being pressed hard by Elliott Forbes Robinson and Al Holbert in the number 1 Lone Brow Porsche, that is, behind. There's your leader, Bryce Cobb. He made his first lap at 1 minute 9 seconds. That is just off what he qualified at. So after some support racing today, apparently the track is getting into better and better shape as we go on.
I think as the day goes on, we'll see these guys turning in times considerably quicker than their qualifying times, which is very unusual with the turbocharged race cars. Usually can go so much quicker in qualifying than they can in the race. But they all were turning the boost down yesterday for qualifying because they found that too much horsepower was just a hopeless embarrassment. And in the very first qualifying session, the Camel Lights were just as quick as the GTP car.
Here's some information, David. Bryce Cobb's lead after 2 laps, 8.2 seconds over the field. He's in a single car effort for the championship. Chip Robinson has 2 cars at his disposal. Bryce Cobb is just driving the wheels off this car, the number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche, when I would think that he would be trying to conserve the car.
Well, the thing is, he's got a beautiful chance here. He's got some lovely open track. Everybody else is racing against each other, getting in each other's way. He's got a perfectly open road. He hasn't caught up with any of the back markers yet. He's going to try and extend that lead as much as he safely can. I'm sure he's still driving well within his capability.
And his co-driver, keep in mind, is Johnny Dumfries, the Earl of Dumfries from Scotland. Probably the newest up-and-coming flying Scot, if you will, formerly with the Lotus Formula One team. He has, I would think, astounded the endurance fraternity in Europe with his speed in these enclosed sports cars. He came to Road America several weeks ago, drove for the first time with Bryce Cobb, and they won that race in the rain.
They won it well and truly in the rain, and Johnny Dumfries was very instrumental. There's the leading light, his number 96 car, being driven by David Loring, who was a race driver some years ago. He retired, went to live in Alaska on the ranch, and decided he couldn't stay away from the tracks any longer, and he's come back and has driven extremely well in his Camel Light over this whole weekend.
There you see the number 96 car. That car got here with the help of one of the other Camel Light teams, Steve Katz and Howard Phillips. They couldn't come to this race. They loaned some of the parts off their Taiga so that Tom Hessert and David Loring could be here in San Antonio. David Loring has got a busy travel schedule. After he finishes this race, rather than going home, he's headed for China, where he will drive the Hong Kong to Beijing 2,800-mile international rally next month. It takes him 12 days. He'll be back in time to run the next Camel GT race at Columbus, Ohio. Then David Loring will go home.
Good Lord, how extraordinary.
And back up front now. There you see Bryce Cobb making his way around in the number 16 Porsche, setting a blistering pace in the early going here at San Antonio.
He has an absolutely huge lead. I expected him to go very well in the race, I must admit, but I certainly didn't expect him to walk away from Cyril van der Merwe in this sort of fashion.
There is really no describing just how bumpy this racetrack is. The drivers take a tremendous beating. And it's going to be a long day in a hot sun. The lead for Bryce Cobb is now up to 13.1 seconds over Cyril van der Merwe in the Corvette. And there you see Bryce Cobb flashing up Durango Street, one of the faster parts of the race course, already beginning to overtake other cars. We're still in the early laps of the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio, and we'll be right back. San Antonio, Texas, and there you see as Whitney Gantz out of Laguna Niguel, California, painfully extricates himself from that Buick-powered March. He has obviously had a tremendous crash.
It was on the exit to the chicane on Durango, which is the fastest part of the track, and everybody was saying how difficult it was there. There we see the Camel Lights leader, who's obviously taken the opportunity to slip into the pits while the track, of course, now is under caution, and it will be for some time while they remove this wreckage. And unfortunately, what a terrible thing to happen, because this car is sponsored by Giampiero Moretti, the owner of Momo Wheels. You see their sign around so much, and it's a bit, not exactly a shoestring, but it's not a tremendously well-financed effort. And Moretti and Ian Dawson, who runs the car, it's a great shame for them. It really is. Of all the teams here, they could probably least afford that sort of expensive damage.
Well, that's a car that was formerly run by Phil Conti on the Camel GT circuit with the Buick turbocharged V6. We're seeing little licks of flame, I think, from the rear wheel housing there.
Is that flame or smoke?
Well, it's obviously fluid all over the ground. A tremendous crash, and that will obviously end their day. They had qualified in 5th position for this Nissan San Antonio Camel Grand Prix, and they were in great shape. As David mentioned, working with a limited budget, Whitney Gantz and Giampiero Moretti had put that car well up into the top 5 in qualifying, and they stood great promise of doing well here today.
And that, unfortunately, the one thing the team wanted to do was do well as we come down to the tail end of the 1987 season, because they were looking for sponsorship for 1988, and obviously this is not the way to go, looking for sponsorship. It's very, very sad, because they've put a lot of effort into that car.
Well, we hope they'll be able to get it back together and join us for the Columbus race a little bit later this year. Tremendous tragedy here for Whitney Gantz and Giampiero Moretti. They are out of the San Antonio Grand Prix. The green flag is back out, and Bryce Cobb in that yellow number 16 Porsche Orange Make It is once again leaping off to a lead out in front of the 19 cars that remain in the field here at the San Antonio Grand Prix. And there you see the number 9, the white Camel Lights car. Behind them, another Camel Lights car, and they are going to serve as blockers for Bryce Cobb. As you see, Cyril Vandermerve in the Corvette trying to make his way around. He's going to have to back off as they reach turn 1.
Now that particular back marker there is particularly slow. It's been very slow all the weekend, and it really has no business making such a completely nonsensical mobile chicane. I mean, it really is making life incredibly difficult for Cyril Vandermerve there.
Well, there you saw the number 9 car of Bill Jacobson and Christopher Cross move out of the way, but the other car there in front, that's the Mitchell entry. I believe that's Kim Mitchell driving that car, refuses to get out of Cyril Vandermerve's way. And now we've got a tremendous traffic jam.
And meanwhile, as you can see from the picture, Bryce Cobb has disappeared. He must be 5 seconds in front already, and only halfway around the green flag lap.
A tremendous opportunity for Bryce Cobb as you see the cars making their way through the chicane that's on the backside of this race course. One of 2 very tight chicanes on this course, keeping the cars slow. Now we're back inside. You see the brake markers, those black signs up there flashing by as Bob Wallach takes us around in the BF Goodrich Porsche 962.
Bob Wallach is still behind the car of Foyt stroke Hulbert.
Whoa, there you see how close it can be. That's just at the pit exit there as Wallach had to get around the number 9 car of Bill Jacobson. That other car I mentioned earlier was the number 34 Mazda-powered Argo of Kim Campbell and Alfred Mitchell. They are both local Texans running in front of their home fans and not making friends with Cyril Vandermerve, I might say, after blocking him. There you see the car.
Not making friends with anybody. Now he's blocking Elliott Forbes Robinson. I mean, it's all very well for these guys to say, well, I'm in the race as well and I don't have to get out of the way, but it's not quite as straightforward as that. If he was racing for the lead of Camel Light, that'd be different.
Here is just how big the lead has gotten. 9 seconds for Bryce Cobb as the guys behind him in the big GTP class have to dicker around with some of the Camel Lights cars. We're running 2 race classes here. Nowhere else in American professional racing, or perhaps in the world, will you see more than one kind of class racing at the same time. But here in the Camel GT, it's the big prototype cars, the GTPs, along with the cars with the non-turbocharged 3-liter and smaller engines. Those are the Camel Lights.
It is a tremendous responsibility for a light driver. It certainly is not easy because you're obviously going fast enough to hurt yourself, and you want to sort of look out the front of the car as much as possible. But it very much behooves you to keep your eye on the mirror and try and make it easier for the faster cars, who are much faster to get by. It just shows how easy it is on a city street circuit like this to be a real major block, going at probably 10 seconds a lap slower.
There you see Bryce Cobb enjoying the benefits of an enormous lead here, thanks to traffic on this tight street course in San Antonio. His car owner, Rob Dyson, is looking on, and he's with Marty Reed right now.
Got it, Rob Dyson. We want to ask you first off, he is running as fast as he was in qualifying. Was that part of your original strategy?
Well, what's happening is the track is coming in, and that means it's getting better grip. It's not any strategy to go any faster. It's just that that's the way the track conditions dictate.
But you seem to be more dialed in than, say, the Corvette, which was running really quick yesterday.
Well, we worked at it to make sure that the car, as the track got progressively better, we could get better as well.
Well, it's a super jump so far.
So far, so good, but it's a long race. You know, we got about 2 hours and 50 minutes to go, and that's a lot of racing.
We had one of the crews tell us that if there was 15 laps under caution, that they could make this on one stop. We had 6. You sort of agree with that theory, that you could make it on one stop if you got one more caution?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see as it develops. So far, we're going to just try for one. You know, whenever you come into the pits, that always slows you up a little bit, but we're going to try for just one. And if we have to, obviously, we'll do 2.
Let's go back out on course.
So that long caution might be playing into the hands of Bryce Cobb, who is driving that car for all it's worth. His lead is now up over 13 seconds as Bryce Cobb, originally from Dallas, Texas, now living in Evergreen, Colorado, is putting on a real show in San Antonio. This is where his father lives. 5 of his 6 siblings are here to watch this race along with their father, as brother Bryce is absolutely tearing up the streets of San Antonio.
Well, he certainly is putting on an amazing display. I mean, I expected him to go well, as I've said before. I expected Sorrell to go well, but boy, I mean, 13 seconds in just 3 or 4 laps is quite outstanding. And it's not as if it's just this one. It's just this one Porsche too, because the Chev is leading all the other Porsches.
And there are plenty of other Porsches in this race. There are 5 all told. And what do you suppose is going through the mind of Chip Robinson? He is waiting for one of those Holbrook cars, the Lowenbrow Porsches, to come in so that he can get in. Right now, he's watching his nearest competitor in the championship race, Bryce Cobb, absolutely motor away from this field. Well, nothing at all he can do about it. There you see, once again, David Loring in the Camel Light car making his way around. A big favorite with the fans today after they watched him absolutely dirt track that Camel Light's car around in qualifying yesterday.
He did drive extremely well yesterday afternoon. He turned in a time of 1 minute 14 seconds, which is actually only 7 seconds off the pole time, and sat him right in the middle of this field. It was a tremendous effort by David Loring.
This very tight, very dusty track has in some ways made it easier for the faster Camel Lights cars to compete against the bigger GTP cars. GTP cars not able to get their 800 horsepower down to the racetrack. In fact, some of those drivers haven't even used all 5 or 6 gears in their gearboxes. They're running the race with 4 gears. But right now, David Loring, driving that red number 96 Mazda Taiga-powered racer, looks to be the match of just about anybody else in the Camel Lights class. On his dashboard, he has a little Mickey Mouse statuette that he said he was given by his son, and he's been talking to Mickey Mouse all through driving. Yesterday he was saying, "Mickey, Mickey, please keep me off the walls," all day long.
Well, he did in fact have contact with the walls a couple of times yesterday, but he was driving extremely hard, and he certainly seems to have got the Camel Light division locked up so far. Of course, we were talking about Chip Robinson earlier, standing on pit wall watching Bryce Cobb disappear into the distance. One of Chip's choices, of course, he's got 2 cars to choose from. One of his choices is lying 3rd at the moment, and that wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen to him to come 3rd to Bryce Cobb. He would still retain the lead with a fairly substantial margin. But of course, the Chevrolet has still got to be between them.
There you see the leader, the number 16 orange and white Dyson Racing Porsche of Bryce Cobb as he dickers with some traffic. There you see them making that tight left-hand turn, and those pylons indicate where the pit exit is. So as cars begin to wear out tires and use up their fuel, they'll be coming in and out of the pits, and the pits are right on the racing line here at San Antonio. Bryce Cobb remains your leader as he laps the field on the 1.67-mile street course of San Antonio. We'll be right back. There you see the number 16 of Bryce Cobb, who has led this San Antonio Camel Grand Prix from the get-go. He continues to lap the field. You just saw him get by the Corvette of Sarel van der Merwe, who has been going backwards since he started this race at pole position.
Well, they're pretty shattering. I certainly didn't expect to see Bryce Cobb lapping Sarel van der Merwe in just about 40 laps of racing. It's quite extraordinary the speed with which Bryce Cobb is driving his car. And if Johnny Dumfries can keep up the same sort of pace, and there's no reason to suppose he can't, these guys have got this race really well and truly locked up. But there is a long way to go yet.
We are working lap number Cobb draws a beat on the number 10 Porsche 962 of Jim Adams. Goes to the outside, but out in front is the red number 63 Camel Lights machine of Jim Downing, just trying to stay out of the way. Will they go 3 wide as they head down for the tightest turn on the race course? No. Bryce Cobb tucks back inside. Jim Adams right behind them. Cyril van der Merwe desperately trying to stay in the race. He is now a lap down, as is Jim Adams.
Well, that was, see, Jim Downing there showed just how a good driver can make it very, very easy to pass. I mean, he virtually proved to be no block at all to Bryce Cobb, and yet he is a guy that's racing for the lead in the Camel Light division. He's way up in the points anyway. He's way up in the race today. And yet Bryce Cobb managed to get by him with no problem.
Now you see the Corvette number 22 Cyril van der Merwe getting a little bit skittish there as he pulls on to pit road, which is very wide and very long here. He'll pull to a stop. Doc Bundy hops out. It looks like they're going to make a driver change here. There is van der Merwe, the 9-time South African National Rally Champion. See, we have a clock to see how long it takes to make the driver change, get 4 tires, get some fuel into that car. Marty Reed is down there in the Corvette pit.
I'm here. Get here.
Go ahead, Marty.
They're going to make the change, guys. The driver's out, Cyril van der Merwe. Got to tell you, I'm out of breath. We were down at the other end of pit lane. We'll do the best we can. We just got here. They are making the change. And we were looking at the tires. Remember, we were talking about the understeer situation. And it was extremely worn tires, especially on the left side, as you would expect, with the course going counterclockwise. And this is turning out to be an extremely long pit. And I don't know who's more tired right now, Cyril van der Merwe or me.
Well, I imagine that Cyril van der Merwe may be physically tired, but I imagine that mentally he's pretty ticked off with the whole day proceedings. There's nothing more frustrating than a difficult race, like it is obviously very difficult around here. And they're about to be put another lap down by the leader. So here we are, just 40 laps into this race. They're going to be 2 laps down.
Doc Bundy out of Gainesville, Georgia, now has his hands full. He hasn't got a lot of seat time in the car, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold off Bryce Cobb, although he did give him a wave as he went by.
I don't think he realized he was there, quite honestly.
It was said to be a one-groove racetrack after qualifying yesterday, but right now, Bryce Cobb and most of the other racers seem to be able to go just about wherever they need to. This course got a washing down last night. They brushed off as much of the grease and the accumulated construction dust as they could, and the drivers say it is a much better racetrack after this morning's warm-up. Right now, the guy who must think the most of the racetrack is Bryce Cobb. He is just devastating this field. 33 years old, out of Evergreen, Colorado, born in Dallas, Texas. He's got a lot of fans in his crowd. Bryce Cobb has won the Porsche Cup for North American Racing the last year, probably the most coveted honor that can go to a Porsche driver. He also leads for that competition this year as we watch the number 14 of Derek Bell. Behind him is the number 83 Nissan of Elliott Forbes Robinson, and they are battling for second place on the racetrack.
Elliott Forbes Robinson has really wound Derek Bell in from quite a long way behind, because he had to struggle past the other Lowenbrow Porsche first of all, then he had to get around the Chevrolet Corvette. Having disposed of everybody else, he's now really winding him in. The Nissan, of course, has showed tremendous potential 2 or 3 times this year. They probably should have won the race in Atlanta back in the spring. They should have won the Mid-Ohio race in June, and they had a strange thing go wrong with the car then. And they could have won the race at Elkhart Lake just 3 weeks ago, but it rained so hard, if you remember, incredible rain, and it drowned the electrics.
There you see a look at Derek Bell in the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche, getting a little bit of happy feet there at the rear of that Porsche as they head into turn 1. Now onto the fast part of the race car, and in the background you saw the white number 9 Camel Lights car, Bill Jacobson, pulling off to the side. He may have a mechanical problem. But the battle for second place is between the 2-time world champion Derek Bell and Elliott Forbes Robinson, perhaps one of the best all-around drivers the United States has ever produced. He's driven single-seaters in the Formula Series. He has driven Trans Am cars. He's done some NASCAR racing. A terrific driver out of Denver, North Carolina, married with a couple of young sons. Elliott Forbes Robinson, just a great guy all around. A lot of fun to talk to.
And he's now got the bit between his teeth, and he's winding in Derek Bell, also another good fun guy as well. Does a lot of jetting around the world these days with his commitments in European World Championship racing, and of course with his IMSA commitment to Lowenbrow Porsche.
Now the traffic starts to build filled up, but one of the Camel Lights guys let the...
13 Buick Albert again.
Yeah.
Let him through though, well, in a difficult place too. That's going through the chicane on the pit straight. A very difficult spot. Here they go, three wide.
Three wide as they head down for turn 1. Derek Bell tucks in behind, I believe that's the number 6 Pontiac Fiero, Jim Rothbarth in front of him. There's Jim Downing in the red car to the right, making room. And Derek Bell now has a lapped car between himself and Elliott Forbes-Robinson in the red and blue 83 Nissan.
Because the funny thing about this circuit is that most tracks, when it looks wide like that, I'm sure the viewers at home are saying, well, why don't they just pull out and overtake him on that nice wide bit of straight? But unfortunately, as you get near the edges of the road here, it gets even rougher. And it's not just as easy as that. You can't just use all of the track here. And it does make overtaking quite a technical science.
Bryce Cobb has been doing some overtaking up front again. There are now just 3 cars remaining on the lead lap, and you're watching the third one right there, the number 83 Nissan. Bryce Cobb is looming up somewhere behind him. Meanwhile, Marty Reed is standing by on pit road with Cyril van der Merwe.
Well, it's a very frustrated Cyril van der Merwe here in pit lane. After yesterday's astounding performance in qualifying, the car started backing up, and you're telling me it wasn't only the push, but you had another problem.
The real problem was the one fuel pump. I think we lost the main fuel pump, and we're having to run on the reserve pump, and well, it just can't carry the load. So every now and again it starts missing and popping, and you have to back off equipment.
And there's nothing you can do about it, so it's just a matter of struggling through the day.
It probably is.
It's got to be disappointing because you were spectacular yesterday.
Yes, I am rather.
And he's modest too, and he's good looking, and his golf game is great also, I can tell you. Thanks, Cyril. Let's go back out on course.
The man knows what he's capable of doing. Cyril van der Merwe of South Africa, now living in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're back to the battle for second place in this Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. Derek Bell out of Pagham, England, trying to hold off Elliott Forbes-Robinson.
From wherever he is in North Carolina now. Actually, your expert analyst there, of course, got it wrong. I told you that it's the handling of the car, not the power unit. And apparently, according to the driver, it was in fact the power unit that's caused the trouble.
Well, there goes our credibility.
Absolutely. These two guys here, racing for second spot, are only, which normally would be a long way, they're only 30 seconds in front of Bryce Cobb. So if EFR doesn't get round DB, there he goes down the inside now. Very difficult. See, normally on a straight shot into a right-hander like that, a tight right-hander, you can really, really try and outbrake the guy into the corner. But they just dared to do that here, because if you get offline, it is so slippery and so bumpy that's going to lead to almost certain disaster.
Derek Bell quickly opening up a bit of a lead over the Nissan, which kind of surprises me. The Nissan, the most powerful car in the field.
He lost a bit of, when he tried to get in there coming into turn 1, he lost a bit of momentum, and Derek managed to pull it away to that far sweep. There we see them going down Durango. You can see how bumpy it is there. And if you get offline there, apparently it's even bumpier as he flicked through that very fast chicane. Everybody sticking to the right centre of the road on that left-hand sweeper, which is not normally where you'd expect it to be, but apparently over on the left-hand side of the road, it is incredibly bumpy. Slower cars, of course, are making them pass them on that left-hand side.
Once more down that bumpy front straightaway through the quick right and left-handers at the pit exit, and now we've got traffic once again in turn number 11.
Some back marker holding them up.
Some back marker. The Greg
like
Hobbs and
looks like another man from England to me.
Another English driver. Blocking English driver Derek Bell. We now have a new leader in the Camel Lights class. It's the Don Bell Jeff Kleiner. Oh, and Elliott Forbes-Robinson goes head on into the wall. A tremendous crash there in the fast part of the race course. Elliott Forbes-Robinson narrowly missing that exit through the concrete wall, and he just plowed head on into those 1,800-pound concrete barriers.
Well, I guess
oh my, he's climbing out of the race car. We're under caution all the way around, and miraculously, Elliott Forbes-Robinson is out of that car. Wow.
That was a pretty severe hit. Probably not quite as hard as Whitney Gantz early on, but I think he got a little bit offline, got onto that slick surface, and just lost the front end of the car.
The car jerked to the right and went head on into the walls. I said 1,800 pound, excuse me, they are 8,200 pound concrete barriers, and it looks like there's a little dimple in the wall. I think he moved a couple of them, and you see the corner workers are crawling through the fence.
The windscreen there, the workers got the wind. Of course, it could be, you know, from what Whitney was saying earlier earlier on, maybe something broke on this car that put it into the wall. We don't know. It was a pretty sudden change of direction for the car, and certainly most unlike EFR.
It's been a long string of dramatic exits for the Nissan team this year after Elliott Forbes Robinson had that tremendous backward slide into the wall at Riverside at some 170 miles an hour. And then at Watkins Glen when a tire exploded and he was sent into the barriers there. Now here we see him at San Antonio, Texas, head on into the concrete barricades.
The only time this car's had a pretty trouble-free run was at the Laguna Seca race back in May when it was driven by your expert analyst. Of course, we became a miserable fifth.
Now we're going to try to take another look at it. Here they are, just getting out of the fast part of the course.
It's a left-hand sweep here with it.
He hit the left wall.
He hit the apex is what happened, didn't he? You can see the concrete dust coming up.
You saw the dust as Elliott Forbes Robinson hit the wall on the left side, and that catapulted him straight across the track into the opposite side concrete.
I think the reason he was making such a close apex was because there's a big bump there.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back to the Camel Grand Prix at San Antonio after this. We're back at San Antonio and the Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio, where we're watching as they continue to work on the wreckage of the number 83 Nissan of Elliott Forbes Robinson. And here's a look at what happened to him just a couple of laps ago.
As you see him take the turn 2 there, he obviously just glances the inside wall. The apex of the corner is the actual wall. Obviously just tagged it with the left front wheel, and it just cannoned him, boom, in off the cushion right into the outside wall, causing, no doubt, quite a bit of damage to that car.
Elliott Forbes Robinson climbed out of the car and got over the wall, appeared to be in good shape. Here's the number 01 Camel Lights machine being shared by Don Bell and Jeff Klein. They have, it would appear, made the driver change. Don Bell, standing to the left, has put Klein in the car. And a push start. A problem getting the 01 Pontiac Fiero started. That 4-cylinder Pontiac in the back of that car having some problem getting it turned over.
Now this is something they don't want because they're lying third in the championship. They're less than 30 points out of the lead, 27 points out of the lead. So they're another car there. They've got the thing going now. They're another car that could, in fact, take this Camel Light champion if they have a good run in the next 3 races. There's the BMW Gebhardt of Greg Hobbs and Gary Robinson, also in for a change. There's Greg out of the car, and Gary obviously going to take it for the rest of the race.
I'd like to chat with your son, Greg. He was right behind Elliott Forbes Robinson in the Nissan when Robinson just crashed the wall. I'd like to know what he was able to see from behind the car. But for now, Greg Hobbs climbs out, and his teammate will climb in, and they'll send the car back on its way here in the San Antonio Grand Prix. Well, we've watched these cars bouncing around this very bumpy 1.67 mile course. For more on how they deal with such problems in suspensions, we offer a track fact. Quick facts are brought to you by Quaker State with QSX. It keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
Suspension systems are one of the keys to any street course success for the GTP cars. For example, the BFG team is using a bump rubber. Where they're going to put that is right in here in the coil-over shock absorber. Now, what they're hoping to prevent is a bottoming out sensation. If the car bottoms out, then on the rebound, what happens is the rear tires get too loose. If that happens and they break traction, the motor over revs, you can break a half shaft. If you break the half shaft, you're out of the race.
Well, you can imagine there's plenty of bump rubbers out there on the suspensions of these race cars.
There's a lot of bumps and not enough rubber, I would imagine. Those bump rubbers are one of those things that's got to be carefully done. There you see the Lowenbrow Porsche with the door open. Is that Derek Bell? Derek is incredibly fit for a man of his age. Obviously, he's not quite as old as some of the drivers out there, but he is pretty ancient. And Derek is very, very fit. He's a fine specimen of a man, but he does also suffer terribly from the heat, and he has taken the opportunity while his caution flag is out to open the door and try and get a bit more ventilation in the car. He is wearing a cool suit, one of Dennis Carlson's cool suits, which work absolutely beautifully, but of course it still gets very hot, especially when you're going slowly, funny enough, in situations like this under the caution.
Let me point out, for the record, Derek Bell is 45 years old. I know how you and he like to dig at each other at any time, but since the man is absolutely helpless driving around in the race...
That's why I like to dig at him.
And here you see our leader, Bryce Cobb, making his way onto pit road along with Skeeter McKittrick in the number 79. Camel Light's Pontiac Fiero behind him. Bryce Cobb will hand over to Johnny Dumfries from Scotland, who absolutely blew people away in qualifying yesterday, but just not quite enough to catch Cyril van der Merwe. Marty Reed is in the Dyson pits.
Well, this is going to be an interesting strategy that may come back to haunt the Dyson team. We don't know. They could have stayed out because remember we were talking about that window. If you got 15 laps under caution, you might be able to go on one stop. Well, now they have definitely committed themselves to making 2 stops because we're so far early in the race. A little bit of fuel being splashed out over the car, and it is dripping down in the cockpit. No flames, luckily. Tires being changed, fuel going in. They topped it off to 31.7 gallons. Johnny Dumfries, who has been very smooth, very quick over the course throughout the weekend. He's in the car. Bryce Cobb is out, 34.5 on the stop, and he's back underway.
Well, this should be interesting to watch as John Colum Creighton Stewart, known as Johnny Dumfries, the Earl of Dumfries from Scotland. In fact, he has the thistle that represents Scotland tattooed to his right shoulder. I wonder how many English aristocrats have such a tattoo.
Well, no Englishman will have a thistle. He would have a rose tattooed to his shoulder. Only them Scots would have the thistle. There we see him. He, of course, will be the future Lord Dumfries, who will be able to sit in the House of Lords and to dictate the plight and the woes of us mere mortals.
Englishmen included.
Englishmen included, I regret to say.
Tremendous race driver from the Formula One ranks after winning in some of the lesser formulas over in Britain. Ran with the Lotus Renault team, a partner to Ayrton Senna for quite a while. Before that team took on Honda Power, and with it a Japanese race driver, Satoru Nakajima. Johnny Dumfries found himself without a ride, but then made a name for himself in endurance sports car racing in Europe.
Well, Johnny Dumfries, to the American viewer, is of course a bit of a rookie, but he won the British Formula 3 Championship, which is one of the most hotly contested championships there are, and of course went into the dizzy heights of Formula 1, and is now out of those dizzy heights.
Now we see the number 6 car of Rothbarth and Morgan, Charles Morgan and Jim Rothbarth, being pushed, having a problem with the electrics, getting that car to fire. Meanwhile, Marty Reed has caught up with Bryce Cobb.
Well, so far, guys, the only thing that's gone wrong with Bryce Cobb's day, we had that fuel stop, and there is fuel all over his feet, his suit. You may have to go back and change totally.
Yeah, I'll have to change everything, my suit, my socks, and my shoes.
Well, let's get back to the race course. You have been spectacular so far today. What's been the key to success?
Well, the car that the Dyson crew has given us, it's really worked well all week, and it seems to me that they've really started to work well under pressure. And every time they touch the car, it gets better, so it's been very good.
Got to ask you, we mentioned the fact that if everything would stay green from this point on, you would have to make another stop, but you're gambling that there's going to be more yellow time, and you may not have to stop again.
No, we think from now on, if it goes green, we can make it.
You really do?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to find out. He may be back with another suit and ready to go, though, just in case.
In the meantime, we've seen that the number 1 car now being driven by A.J. Foyt, I believe. At least he's partnering Al Holbert. And the number 67 machine of Bob Wallach and Darren Brassfield have been waved by the pace car, and they're going to allow to go all the way around as they search for the new leader. And that's the number 14 machine of Derek Bell.
And there we see the pace car leading Derek Bell. Now, of course, they're taking a bit of a risk here by not stopping, because if there is no more caution, they're going to have to make a stop on green, which of course will obviously be very much more costly to stop on caution, except that by stopping on the caution, the Dyson car, which we see there, is now at the back of this pack, which might not be too desperate in a normal situation, but now it's got to pass all this slow-moving traffic in the streets of town, which is very much more difficult, as we've seen. And Al Holbert, of course, will have Derek Bell, and Chip Robinson will have a clear run.
There you saw the number 16 now being driven by Johnny Dumfries. And the dice have been rolled in the pits here at San Antonio. Here are your top 5 as they work lap number 52. The number 14 car of Derek Bell. Following him in second place, but well back on the racetrack, is the number 16 with Dumfries now at the wheel. Al Holbert is still at the wheel of the number 1 car in third position. The number 67 machine of Bob Wallach is in fourth, and the number 22 of Cyril van der Merwe, and now Doc Bundy at the controls of that machine, is a lap down in fifth position.
We must have 1 lap to go. The lights have gone up on the pace car roof. The flashing lights have gone off, indicating to the following drivers that this is the lap that the pace car will pull in. And they're all starting to warm their tyres up again, preparatory to having another go at the old race itself.
So the pace car continues around. He will pull off when they come back to the far side of the track. A little bit confusing for fans and announcers alike in that the start and finish at this racetrack are in two different locations.
Well, this is what's called an initiative test. It's one of those things that keeps you just thinking a little bit. It only just was that one time, just for the first initial start. All other starts and finishing will be done on the pit straight.
I keep losing track of where the pace car is coming on and off.
Well, the pace car he'll just pull into the pit area. Where are they now? I can't quite pick out where they are on the track. Meanwhile, of course, the Chev and Bob Wallach and the number 1 car are all rushing around to catch up with the back of this lineup.
Making their way up Durango Street there. They're just going through the tightest turn on the racetrack, well over 90 degrees, moving up Durango Street. Market, Bowie, Durango, and Alamo Streets make up the 4 main thoroughfares on this 1.67-mile San Antonio Grand Prix course. Just about a block away from the actual Alamo, the shrine of Texas liberty, where 182 volunteers fought off 4,000 Mexicans under the dictator Santa Anna until they were overwhelmed on the 13th day of their siege. And they are very, very proud of the Alamo here in San Antonio.
Holbert takes the flag there.
The green flag is out, and we are racing again here at San Antonio. And then Derek Bell leaps out to a good lead. Now behind him, he has got that number 34 Mazda-powered Argo that we've seen at the front of a procession of GTP cars today. There is the number 42 of Chip Meade doing battle in the Camel Lights class. And way back in the pack, we're looking for Johnny Dumfries. Just made the corner. That's right.
That 42 car is nicely placed because he's leading the Camel Light Brigade, and he's got a relatively clear road in front of him as well, which is nice for him.
Now the number 10 car, that's Jim Adams and John Hotchkiss, must have missed a shift or something. And there's Bob Wallach in our camera car, the BF Goodrich Porsche. He has spun it.
Now that could be now Darren Brasfield. Do you think Darren Brasfield's taken over at that pit stop?
I didn't notice the pit. I think Wallach is still in the car.
Okay.
And he is having problems keeping that car going in a straight line.
He seems to be having a lot of problems with the bumps suddenly. I mean, even worse than normal. There we see him sweeping through turns 3 and 4. This is a pretty fast, sweepy section of the corner. We've already seen Elliot Forbes Robinson go up there, down to the hairpin at Durango.
Let's watch now as he comes through the chicane here at the pit exit and see what might have happened to Bob Wallach. Whoops, we get a traffic jam. Everybody trying to avoid each other. That's the 79 of Skeeter McKittrick, and he just tags the wall right in front of our camera. Wow.
Absolutely scraped down the wall well and truly there.
Skeeter McKittrick and Tom Winters. I believe they saw, we saw them pit earlier when Bryce Cobb pitted, so I believe that's Tom Winters at the wheel of that car now. But right now, Derek Bell has clear track, and he is flying. Now he knows, as you mentioned earlier, David, that he's probably going to have to make a pit stop, and they're going to want to get Chip Robinson into that car. So we're seeing the remains of another spin there. That looks like the number 29 machine of Ron Canizares and Bill Wolf of Buick-powered Taiga. He had problems at the turn, got himself straightened out, but he's moving at a very reduced pace here, being passed by everyone.
There we see Johnny Dumfries making his way up to the field. Ooh, squeezing inside that Camel Light, inside another Camel Light, so they go down to the hairpin. That's the John Downing car, Jim Downing.
Johnny Dumfries absolutely flying through the field. Now we're going to take another look here at what might have happened in that earlier spin. Whoa, looks like the number 29 Canizares car just gets chopped off by the number 42 at Chip Meade.
Well, it was a bit of an unwise move of the Canizares car because the 42 car is leading the pack, the Camel Light pack, and to try and put a wheel inside him at this stage of the race, I would have thought was a bit unnecessary when he's probably lapping him anyway.
All right, we are back on the leader. There you see Derek Bell making his way around. We understand that Elliot Forbes Robinson has made his way back to pit road, and Marty Reed is with him.
Well, none the worse for wear despite a horrendous crash. Elliot, what happened?
Not quite sure, Marty. I was going around the left sweeper there, and I got into the wall. And I don't think I misjudged it, but I might have done that. It just seemed like it slipped into the wall and then went out for the outside wall.
Whitney Gans had something break in his crash. You're saying nothing broke in your car?
I'm not sure, because it seemed like it went into the corner fine, and all of a sudden it hit the wall. And I don't know if it just pulled over there, whether I hit something on the road or what happened, but it just kind of a strange thing. The Nissan was running so well, I was leaving room at all the walls, going around the bumps, and still being able to keep up. Felt we'd be able to go fast at the end of the race. And it didn't work out that way today.
Well, we're just glad that you're okay.
Thanks a lot, Marty.
And so Elliott Forbes Robinson partnered today with John Morton. The namesake car in the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio is now out of the race. Your leader is Derek Bell of Pagham, England. A 25-second lead over the rest of the pack. Plenty of clear track in front of him. We'll be back. Antonio. We're back at San Antonio working lap number 70 in this 3-hour Nissan Camel Grand Prix. And you see Al Holbert has pitted the number 1 Lowenbrow Porsche, and A.J. Foyt will climb in. Now, this has obvious repercussions in that we are a long way beyond halfway, and it appears that with a fuel stop here and some fresh tires, A.J. Foyt may be able to take this car the rest of the way without a stop. All of the major teams pitted right around midway, so it's going to be tough to tell how many are going to be able to go the rest of the way, but I suspect that we may see a couple of more top teams make a pit stop. One team we have not yet seen pit is the BF Goodrich team with Bob Wallach behind the wheel.
No, we haven't seen them pit, and of course we saw the Price Cobb car pit really very, very early. There seems to be a bit of a problem with AJ's car here. They're trying to push start it now. Unlike a Porsche, they usually just start up just like that. Obviously let him straight out the pits, no red light there to stop him. Going very slowly through turn 1.
I wonder if AJ has all 6 cylinders in that 3-liter turbocharged Porsche engine. Now he appears to be getting back up to speed. And so AJ Foyt will, we believe, drive the rest of the way here for Al Holbert's number 1 Porsche. Chip Robinson has taken over for Derek Bell in the other and presently is in 2nd place. Johnny Dumfries, co-driving with Price Cobb, is now the leader once again. Bob Wallach is in 2nd place. 3rd place is Chip Robinson in the number 14 car. A little bit earlier in the weekend, Marty Reed had a chance to talk with the legendary AJ about his weekend.
We were out, with the Aero Tech crew, with the Oldsmobile car, trying to set the world record, which we was able to accomplish. And it throwed us way behind. We didn't have time to get the 962 of ours ready. And so Al called me yesterday. I was up at the lake and planning on spending the weekend at the lake and take it easy. And I told him while I made him here this morning, so I was reading him here. Impressions of the race course?
Well, the Aerotech car that AJ is referring to as we watch him make his way around, and it still doesn't look like he's up to full speed, David. AJ Foyt took an Oldsmobile-powered, sophisticated prototype car out to Fort Stockton here in Texas on a very large racetrack and ran over 260 miles an hour for the mile. Got close to 290 miles an hour as you see the number 13 car into the wall. Close to 290 miles an hour in an experimental race car.
Pretty quick, but I believe it was a fairly large circuit. Now, number 13, we've already seen him having trouble before. It looks as if he really has lost his steering now. Seems to be unable to get away from the wall.
Well, he won't be able to use that concrete wall to steer him all the way around. He has just made turn 1 on this race course, and he's got a long, long way to go. That's the John Wood, David Rocha, Brent O'Neill car, and I believe it's Rocha, a former Formula Ford runner who is now behind the wheel. A businessman who teamed up with John Wood, who sells automobile parts up in New Jersey, decided they would go racing. Now here we watch our leader, Johnny Dumfries, who I believe will have to make another pit stop before the day is out here in San Antonio. Meanwhile, Marty Reed is caught up with Derek Bell.
Well, David Hobbs made reference to Derek's reputation for being one of the boilers in the cockpit that really can't stand the heat, but you're saying it's not too bad out there.
Hobbs talks a load of garbage, he really does. I like you, Hobbo. No, it's absolutely true. I normally suffer like crazy, but today it's been a piece of cake.
Track conditions, what's it like out there now?
It's just very slippery. I mean, there's just no grip on the tires apart from the very correct line. And when you turn into the slower corners, you can't get the front to bite. The surface is so smooth from all the cars and stuff that are driven over it on the streets normally, but there's no sort of asphalt bite, there's no grip at all, so there's nothing you can do about it.
Honest appraisal, if everything stays as it is right now, which car is better, the 16 Dyson machine or yours?
Oh, well, I think we're exactly the same. I was doing the same times as him. I just had a bit of bad luck in traffic, and of course got behind on the pace car. So obviously, I think we've got it on them, but we're a little bit behind at the moment. Got a bit of time to make up.
Let's go back out on course.
And on course, we're looking lap number 74 right now. 3 cars are on the lead lap. The number 16 of Johnny Dumfries is up front with a 9.9-second lead over Bob Wallach, who has yet to pit in the number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche. Make Chip Robinson now 3rd in the number 14 Lowenbrow machine. The number 22 of Doc Bundy in the Corvette is a lap down in 4th position, and in 5th is A.J. Foyt in the number 1 Holbert Racing Lowenbrow Porsche 962.
It seems hard to believe that the others pitted so late. Of course, Bob Wallach has yet to pit at all. It seems hard to believe that Bryce Cobb won't in fact have to stop again. But maybe if they can go as long the second half of the race as Bob Wallach's going this half, maybe they won't have to stop. But it seems a long way to go to me for a Porsche 962 around here.
Well, you know whereof you speak, David, having driven for Porsche this year, both here and abroad, in addition to having driven the Nissan, which has crashed out of the race, and the Chevrolet in the past, and the now defunct BMW team, and you've even driven the Camel Lights BMW Gebhardt. What have you missed in the last couple of years?
I drove a GTO car 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I missed that. And the Ford GTP car that we expect to see back at Columbus.
Right.
Guy just can't keep a steady ride.
No, I know, just can't keep a steady ride. But I wouldn't mind one of those Lowenbrow cars. They do go extremely well there. We see AJ Foyt taking the right-hand side of the straight, which is slightly smoother than the left-hand side of that far straight into that quick chicane. We'll see him, no doubt, going to the right of the centre here. That black bit on the left is extra tarmac and is very, very bumpy, so I'm informed by my driving friend.
And in fact, you saw that strip of tarmac down the middle as we go in car with Bob Wallach. That long strip of black down the middle is where they actually bulldozed a tree-lined ball along on Durango Street to make room for this Camel GT race course. So an awful lot of money and time invested in getting this race course together. Some $750,000 was spent putting this race course together.
Well, street races are very expensive. Of course, you get a good return because you get a pretty good crowd.
Yes, indeed. And there you saw the strip once again as Bob Wallach makes his way around. We're going to take a break here in San Antonio. Stay with us here on ESPN. We're back in San Antonio at halfway in this Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. Time to bring you our Volkswagen mid-race recap, brought to you by your Volkswagen dealers. The leader at halfway, the Earl of Dumfries, Johnny Dumfries from Scotland, driving with Bryce Cobb. The margin 14.1 seconds with only 3 cars remaining on the lead lap. So fierce is the pace here at San Antonio. There were 2 long caution flags a little bit earlier in the race. We've had 2 leaders, 3 lead changes overall. The lights leader right now, Don Bell and Jeff Klein. As the battle continues in that clash, you see out of the race, and the reason for the 2 earlier yellow flags, Whitney Gantz with a tremendous crash on lap 7 in the Buick-powered Momo March. Elliott Forbes Robinson hit both walls and totaled the 83 Nissan. Now you see that Bob Wallach has finally pitted well beyond the halfway mark, and he should be in good shape the rest of the way. I didn't notice if Darren Brasfield, his co-driver, climbed in or not. Whoa, he almost passed the red light, which can be very dangerous on this extremely narrow course. You watch this. I believe that was Jim Downing. Whoa, and there goes Johnny Dumfries. Oh, my.
Well, I don't know. It's Darren Brasfield has taken over the driving jaws, and he did just drive right by that red light. He just didn't give it a moment's thought, and, of course, nearly took the race leader out. He would have been very popular young gent.
Oh, my. I was about to tell you, the racing line means these cars swing right across the pit exit, trying to maintain speed of about 80 miles an hour at that point on this narrow race course. And at that point, Darren Brasfield out of Los Gatos, California, almost bought himself a race car.
What's that parked up there?
That was the number 13 car, I think, that had pulled to the side earlier, David. Nevertheless, Darren Brasfield with a very distinctively styled Porsche 962. That's a very different nose section, as Jim Busby and the BFG team out of California, obviously playing with the aerodynamics. They are very much an individual Porsche customer team. Their teams are built by Ed Pink of drag racing fame, rather than using the Andile shops in California that maintain these 962 engines for the majority of the Camel GTP Porsche 962 operations. Back up front, here's an Andile car. Johnny Dumfries of Scotland in the lead, trying to help his co-driver and teammate Bryce Cobb close in on Chip Robinson in Camel GT points with 2 races to go after this San Antonio event.
Well, the Dyson Racing team are pretty free spirit a lot too. They've always had some innovations on their cars. They've ducked in the air from under the front fenders differently to anybody else. They've put those wings on. They've done some things to their cars that made it very quick, and there have been times Sears Point last year, Columbus last year, where their cars have been very, very fast.
In fact, their aerodynamic stylist, Danny Yagumi, is also from a drag racing background, as is crew chief Pat Smith and Rob Dyson himself. So interesting that drag racing has contributed to the aerodynamic developments in endurance sports car racing. We have a comment from Marty Reed on pit road.
Well, we've got the Iron Man of this race so far, Bob Wallach, on the longest conditions. You look awfully hot and tired, but yet the car still in third place right now.
Well, it took our tires quite a bit to get good grip, probably because of the track condition. You're being very slippery, a lot of dust. You know, once it got going, I did enjoy it. I mean, in normal circumstances, I would have been able to go the whole distance 3 hours. But as you probably know, I had quite a small accident 5 weeks ago. And I feel weak and I'm not strong enough.
Well, super job. And before we break back, pan down to the right here. This is Randy Maynard, the crewman. He's got a message for his fiancée. He wants her to come home. She's been out planning the wedding. Let's go back out on course.
Okay, thank you, Marty and Renee. Randy's thinking about you. Make your top 5 at this point. Number 16 machine of Johnny Dumfries, Chip Robinson in second right now. Darren Brassfield in third in the number 67 Porsche that Bob Wallach just got out of. Doc Bundy now fourth, and A.J. Foyt, you see him right there in the number 1 car, running in 5th position and about to be put another lap down by Mr. Dumfries.
Yeah, Sir Dumfries.
Sir Dumfries?
He's not Sir Dumfries. But he's actually pulling out a bit on Chip Robinson. At one stage, when Chip came out after his pit stop, when he'd just taken over, he in fact caught up a bit. There's another rather daring pass into that chicane, that tricky chicane on the pit straight. Chip Robinson started to make ground on the number 16 car of Johnny Dumfries, but the gap has definitely leveled off now, and in fact Johnny Dumfries is pulling away ever so slightly from Chip Robinson, which of course all Price, Cobb and Dyson fans will be looking to see that. There you see only a 12-point gap. If Cobb should win this race, that will drop to 12-7.
Well, he'll peel about 5 points off. There are 20 points to win, 15 for second. So Price Cobb would peel another 5 points off with 2 races to go after San Antonio. Chip Robinson and Price Cobb locked in a battle for a $100,000 bonus at season end to the Camel GTP driving champion.
And of course to the Porsche Cup, the Porsche Cup USA, which is also a very lucrative thing to win. Obviously Price Cobb will be trying to get his little Texas claws on some of that money.
Price Cobb won it last year, the second driver for Rob Dyson to take the Porsche Cup of North America. The year before, in 1985, Drake Olson, who drove with Rob at the time, won the Porsche Cup as well, and Rob probably put it best. It's worth more to a driver's career in terms of the prestige of winning a Porsche Cup than it is in terms of the $30,000 payoff, but believe you me, $30,000 is a lot of money.
Suit me fine.
And we're watching as Johnny Dumfries continues to make his way around in the lead, stretching the gap over Chip Robinson, who is desperately trying to hold on to his narrow lead in the Camel GTP Drivers' Championship. There you see the young Scot, 29 years old. And don't think he used his nobility to just walk right into a Formula 3000 ride and then his Formula 1 arrangement. He spent time sweeping out the shops of the Williams Formula 1 team, and he served as a mechanic for a while on a couple of teams before getting his breakthrough as a driver. So Johnny Dumfries, you see, take a tremendous pounding there on the ripples on the race course. The suspension's working very hard. Johnny Dumfries has earned everything he's gotten in Camel GT racing. We're back at San Antonio and the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio, where the shadows begin to grow long across Alamo Street, just about 2 blocks from the famed Mission itself, where a great battle went on just over 150 years ago. They call it the greatest shrine of Texas liberty, and Johnny Dumfries, it looked got a little too close to the wall on Market Street there.
He certainly did. That's the exiting turn 1, and turn 11, sorry, the last turn on this course, and that was really very, very close to the outside wall.
Johnny Dumfries lapping at about 109.7. That would have put him in the second row of qualifying. So the track continues to support fast times despite tires that might be going away and engines that might be weakening a little bit. You see the car skittering back and forth as he tries to slow it down over the bumps of San Antonio. Off of Bowie Street and on to Durango. And a clear track for Johnny Dumfries.
And he continues to pull away from Chip Robinson through that very far chicane, almost flat out.
Now here is the top 5 in the GTP ranks right now. Dumfries leading Robinson. Brassfield is in the 67 BFG car. Doc Bundy taking over for Cyril Vandermerve in the number 22 Corvette, and A.J. Foyt is in the number 1 Holbert racing car. Now here are the Camel Lights top 5. Jeff Klein is taking over for Don Bell in the 01 car. David Loring and Tom Hessert. I believe Loring is still in that car, the number 96 Tyga racer. John Mafucci and Jim Downing holding down third. Downing is the 2-time defending champion and holds a narrow 8-point lead in Camel Lights driver championship standings. Mike Brockman and Steve Durst in 4th position.
Well, that's the sort of thing we like, that Bell and Klein would like to see in particular, because they're lying 3rd in the championship, and the Hessert and Loring car is not figuring in the championship. But if it can act as a spoiler and take 2nd place away from Downing and Mafucci, that would be absolutely hunky-dory as far as Don Bell is concerned.
We've got lots more racing to come. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're back in San Antonio, Texas. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs with you. Marty Reed is down on pit road for the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. Right now, Johnny Dumfries of Scotland has got he and his co-driver Bryce Cobb way out front. Now, with the help of the folks from Porsche Motorsports North America, we've done some calculations, and it appears that Johnny Dumfries of the number 16 Dyson Racing car will have to pit for fuel and tires before this race is over. But the 2nd and 3rd place cars, Chip Robinson of the number 14 Holbert Racing Porsche and Darren Brassfield of the number 67 BF Goodrich car, will probably not have to stop the rest of the way. So there's about a 30 to 40 second swing there that could become critical as this race goes on. There you see Johnny Dumfries making his way around, overtaking John Mafucci in the slower number 63 car. Now, for more on the pit strategy to come, let's go down to Marty Reed.
Well, I don't want to contradict the guys from Porsche Motorsports because usually they're right on target, but I just got done talking with Pat Smith, the crew chief for this vehicle of the number 16 Dyson machine. He says, I'm not sure whether we can make it or not. I've told him to lean it out as much as he can. We're going to go until we see a fuel light. So we'll find out. Keep your fingers crossed if you're a Dyson Cobb and Dumfries fan, because it's going to be a barn burner down the stretch.
Okay, thanks, Marty. Well, maybe they're just not telling us what their pit strategy is going to be, thinking that they're watching ESPN in the Holbert pits.
Well, the thing is that they're going to have to run for nearly 2 hours if they don't stop the fuel. And that seems a long time for one of these GT prototype cars to run to me for fuel. Even here, which is a low-speed circuit, and therefore fuel consumption is not as high as it would be at, say, somewhere like Elkhart Lake or Watkins Glen. It still seems a long time to run, and they will almost have to, definitely have to stop. The thing is, of course, is Lady Gluck going to smile on them and give them another caution period in which to stop in, or are they going to have to do it under green?
They are very meticulous as we watch. Whoa, as the Camel Lights leader, Jeff Klein, is narrowly passed there by Johnny Dumfries just before the pit straightaway turn. They're very meticulous about calculations, David, that can be made when the cars are running at the revs for the distance that they want them to. What do long extended pit stops do for them? Does that totally boggle all the calculations, or can they still be reasonably accurate?
Well, no, they do throw things out a little bit. You mean a long extended caution period under the yellow flag? Yeah, well, it does tend to throw things out. All you do know is that it uses a lot less fuel. Of course, all these cars now have got cockpit control, mixture controls. You can actually turn the mixture up or down. And so if you've got a good lead like they have, the pit can say, okay, Johnny, just turn it down 2 clicks on the mixture and use a little bit less. You can't turn the boost down anymore. You can change the mixture and use a few less revs, and you can increase the fuel consumption quite a bit. But if you're being pushed, if you're Chip Robinson, the reverse is true. You've got to try just that bit harder.
Well, Chip Robinson is pushing very hard, hoping to overtake the number 16 Porsche of Dumfries and Cobb, and Marty Reed has gone looking for his story.
Well, I was just talking to Kevin Doran, the crew chief for the number 14 Porsche 962, and they say, again, without 4 laps of under caution, they will have to stop. They're going to have to come in, and we're getting our answer right now. Just coming down pit lane is the number 16 car of Johnny Dumfries, and it looks like they're going to change the tires, and this sort of caught a few guys by surprise. It looked like they were not geared up for this stop. They were showing 5 laps on the pit board. Bryce Cobb is not even ready to get into the car, so it's going to have to be Dumfries, and they've got a problem in the nose. They're reaching in, they pulled the nose section off, and now they're sticking it back on. I don't know exactly what the problem is. We'll have to check with them, putting a few turns into the backside, and it looks like this could be a costly stop. They just get the lid down, and the Lowenbrow Porsche 962 is now in the lead.
You're exactly right, Marty, and in the process, he has also passed the number 67 car and put him a lap down. Johnny Dumfries, Bryce Cobb was not ready if he was planning to get into the car, which I suspect he was, and now Johnny Dumfries is going back out with time beginning to run out here in San Antonio. We've got lots more racing to come. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Now, the critical thing during that pit stop for Dyson Racing was to be sure that they had all four wheels on tight and enough gas in the car that they will not have to stop under any conditions the rest of the way.
No, they certainly should be home and dry. Now, of course, one has to ask the question, will, in fact, Chip Robinson have to stop again? But I doubt it.
Well, the pit strategy continues as the shadows are long and the clouds are coming over, and number 16 is pulling to the side. Is there problems for Johnny Dumfries? Yes, he's driving absolutely off the race course, and it looks like the left front wheel.
I think the right rear wheel is probably missing because the left front wheel's up in the air.
Is up in the air. It stopped turning as he pulled off the racetrack.
Just exactly what you were saying. Make sure all four wheels are on. I would say that the right rear wheel is almost certainly missing off that car because the left front's up in the air.
Well, let's see what happens when Johnny Dumfries gets out. I'm sure he's going to take a look, and that's exactly where he's looking. Right rear. What a disappointment for the young Scottish Earl. His gestures speak 1,000 words. Let's take another look and see if we can see what happened to him. He's on the left of your picture back there in the rear. Boing.
Ooh.
Yep.
That's exactly what it is.
You can see the wheel on the left side of the car there, his right rear just about to come off the car, and the front left comes up. Meanwhile, Marty Reed is in the Dyson pits.
Well, actually, we're not even in the pit. We're over by the wall. I got Pat Smith. What's he telling you on the radio?
He hasn't said a word on the radio. I asked him, he didn't say anything. He just got out of the car and walked off, I guess.
Well, from our report, it looks like one of the rear wheels came off. Was everything on tight when it went out of here?
I don't know.
Tough luck if that's what's happened. Let's go back out on course. We'll stay with this one.
Okay, Marty, thank you.
It's always a danger, of course, at any pit stop, particularly, for instance, in those Formula One pit stops where they come in and make those lightning fast stops with about 1,000 people swarming all over the car. You've only got to have the wheel cocked just a little bit. The wheel nut goes up tight, but the wheel, in fact, is not tight. It goes around, you get out on the racetrack, you put it back, it settles back onto the spigot. It's moved away from the nut, it's not tight, and of course within a few laps the wheel comes off.
And the wheel has come off, and that is undoubtedly it for Dyson Racing. Chip Robinson would appear to be home free. We'll see. We're back at San Antonio, where suddenly Chip Robinson of Oldwick, New Jersey is 2 laps ahead of the field on a lap by himself. Just moments ago, Johnny Dumfries came in for a quick Dyson Racing pit stop with a nose problem on the car. They took the opportunity to gas it up, change 4 tires. When he went back out on the racetrack just a lap or so later, Johnny Dumfries lost the right rear wheel. As you mentioned, David, it just was not snug up completely, apparently. Off it came. The car is parked at the farthest reaches of the racetrack, and it appears that all is done for Bryce Cobb.
Well, of course, the wheel may have come off, something may have broken, we don't know, it's hard to tell. I mean, it could be a breakage, you know. We heard Whitney Gans early on in the race saying that he thought things would break. There we see our leader again, just overtaking the 31 BMW Gebhardt, which I haven't seen out there for about, it must be at least 45 minutes to an hour, because obviously I have a vested interest in that vehicle. And it has just reappeared. They must have had some sort of a problem with it. But in Dumfries' case, the wheel either came off or something broke. But anyway, in any case, it was absolutely tragic for them and for the race and for the championship. It's not the way everybody liked to have seen it happen. It would have been great if they could have stayed in and won this race. It would have really livened this championship up as we come into the last 2 rounds.
Well, it certainly has done away with any hope Bryce Cobb had of whittling away Chip Robinson's lead. A 12-point lead in the driver championships. I believe Bryce might come away with no points today. Chip is now leading. If he comes home with 20, all of a sudden that becomes a 32-point gap with only 2 races to go and 40 points. Should something just bizarre happen to Chip, Bryce win both races, Chip would have to drop out of both for Bryce really to have a shot.
To make a realistic shot, exactly. Bryce would certainly have to win both races.
Here we see number 67 with Darren Brassfield into the pits, and hot coming in. Now, we wondered whether or not he was going to have to make another stop. Bob Wallach brought the car in well after halfway in the race.
Yeah, that's right. Why are they stopped?
Oh, now we're being told that Darren Brassfield hit the wall out there on the race course. Let's see if we can find out more from Marty Reed.
Down the right side, you can see all the crease work as the sponsor's name has been left inverted somewhere on this course. The motor has gone down. It looks as though they're going to have to make some changes underneath as well. Remember, they had a similar problem in practice, and it did a lot of damage, and Jim Busby just threw up his arms. He's walking away. He's totally frustrated because he was now running in second place, even though he was 2 laps down. If something would have happened to the Holbert machine, then he would have been in the lead, and now it looks as though the race day could be over.
Well, it's a very dejected Darren Brassfield behind the wheel. Another great young American race driver in his early 20s. He's got Trans Am victories and IMSA GTO victories to his credit, hoping to make an impact in Camel GT racing, and he even has an IndyCar program planned somewhere down the road. But one misstep has taken Darren Brassfield into the wall, and that's got to be a real bummer, if I may say so, for the BF Goodrich team. They have had a number of big crashes this year.
Right, terribly frustrating for the team and terribly frustrating for Jim Busby. He puts together this team. It's totally funded by BF Goodrich, who do a lot of development work on these tyres, which are based on a street radial, but of course they're very light racing tyres as well. It's a good development exercise for them, and they just haven't had the luck or the results that they should have had, really. They did very, very well at Mid-Ohio, very nearly won the race at Mid-Ohio. Bob Wallach was leading at Sears Point when he had that tremendous crash which we saw earlier on ESPN. And of course now we've got a bit of a failure here, and it's just one of those things they could really do without, especially coming into this latter part of the season when everybody's trying to put together next year's plans, getting sponsorship and everything else.
Now here's Johnny Dumfries. Apparently he's going to...
A hot lord.
A hot lord indeed. He's headed into the pit area
to duff somebody up.
Well, he's probably going to have a word with the pit crew, find out who fastened on the right rear wheel. But in talking about the BF Goodrich team, we should also point out they're so short on chassis right now. The one they are just using was factory chassis number 106, making it the 6th car that was built by the Porsche factory. And in fact, it's a car that was built in 1984, which is one of the early years of the 962. So that car had plenty of racing miles on it. A couple of the crewmen told me they had to really literally blow the dust off it and get it ready to go racing here in San Antonio.
Well, it just demonstrates again that you've really got to be so careful on these street circuits. Let's go down to Marty Reed, who's got Darren right there.
Darren Brassfield, what happened out there on course?
Well, the cool suit didn't work from the start. We don't know why. But I saw that they were catching me and we were in second place, so I said I had about 30 minutes to go, so I figured I'll try to stick it out. And I just got lazy and came through this corner and it pushed into the wall, and I couldn't do anything about it. I hit a bump under power and it went straight in the wall.
And bent the upper control arm on the right rear?
Something in the right front, and I don't know what it is right now.
Well, we're sorry to see you out.
Thank you. It's a shame for the BF Goodrich team.
Well, it just shows that in this sort of racing, you've got to be so careful and so on top of it all the time. And it does, as I said early on, it's a very physical race, and you've really got to be in good shape. And I sometimes wonder whether Darren is quite the shape he might well be in.
And so Chip Robinson takes over the lead and cruising here in San Antonio. We'll be right back. Back at San Antonio, a surprise here in the pits as Chip Robinson brings in the leading Porsche. We were expecting the number 1 car of A.J. Foyt to give it back to Al Holbert, but now here comes Chip Robinson, and we wonder whether there's a problem. The car looks all right as he pulls to a stop. The crew goes to work.
There is Al Holbert.
So Holbert
get in the car.
Al Holbert will get in to finish up. That is a surprise. We thought that Al Holbert was 1 car.
Well, he obviously wants to get in this car to add another win to his already impressive record.
Indeed. Marty Reed is standing by in the Holbert pit.
Well, and Al was talking about getting into the car. We all just assumed that he was going to be getting into the number 1 vehicle, but all of a sudden, after a 25.6 second pit stop, we find him in the lead car. We'll get a chance to chat with Chip Robinson. He does have enough time in the car to get his points for the race, so we'll get a chance to talk to him in just a few minutes.
Well, if Al Holbert brings this car to victory lane, it'll be win number 49 for IMSA's winningest driver, a record that he has held since last year. There will be no points for Al Holbert since he cannot get enough time in the car in the late going here to accumulate driver championship points, but he will get a victory. in the car that has served him so well for so long, the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche.
Well, that's one way of getting the wins, isn't it? Get the other two to do 2 3/4 hours and then go and get in the last 10 minutes.
Marty Reed is standing by now with Chip Robinson.
Well, we were, as we said on air, we were expecting the number 1 car to come in and Al to be replacing AJ, but he gets in for you. What was going on?
We're trying to get Al 50 wins before the end of the year.
I see. Okay. Well, that's exactly what David Hobbs was saying, to add to the list. Obviously, you have enough time in the car to collect the points. Nice situation for you, as all of a sudden in the last 30 minutes, everybody seemed to just drop away.
Yeah, there was nobody out there. It seemed, I thought I was running by myself. Every once in a while, I came up on 1 or 2 Camel Light cars, but the racetrack basically seemed empty.
You know, we were expecting high attrition, but at the 2-hour mark, there would have been only 2 GTP cars out of the running. That sort of surprised all of us. Did it surprise you at that point?
Well, yeah, it did. I thought that it would have maybe taken its toll a little bit earlier, but I guess later on, I guess the 3rd hour is when it started happening. You know, I don't know how many guys have gotten in the wall, but there's a couple of cars that have dumped an incredible amount of oil out there, and I know I was having trouble with it a couple of times, but I guess we're doing all right.
Well, obviously, that 6-gun shootout at the beginning of our broadcast today, we now know who's going to be the winner.
Well, that's right.
In fact, the winner will be Chip Robinson at the rate the team is going. Al Holbert, Chip Robinson, and Derek Bell teaming up in a trio of drivers to take this car to victory lane. And in front of them, you see the number 42 Porsche Fab car, Chip Mead, still out there plugging around, still smoking.
Still dumping oil, as Chip Robinson says so succinctly. And it must be pretty... You wouldn't want to follow that car for long either. Otherwise, it'd be all over the windscreen at this particular late juncture in the race, with the sun getting low, as you can see going down that Durango Street there. Very difficult if you've got oil on the windscreen. In fact, almost impossible to see. Very, very difficult.
Well, Chip mentioned they wanted to get 50 wins for Al Holbert before year end. This year, Al Holbert decided he would not run for the championship. He would not drive the full series. With the new Porsche IndyCar project coming online, that car said to be in the country very, very shortly, hoping to make its debut in just a few weeks on the CART IndyCar circuit. Certainly Al Holbert, as director of Porsche Motorsport North America, is going to be spending a lot of his time with that program. He said that he will be back with the Lowenbrow Porsches next year, but we may be seeing the last of Al Holbert as a driver on the Camel GT circuit. And what a career he has had.
Well, the IMSA series, the Camel GT series, will certainly miss Al Holbert. He's been a great figure. He's been a great favorite with thousands of fans, and has always done very, very well for Camel, for IMSA as well, and has been a great champion. He was champion the very first year I drove in IMSA back in 1977, and has been repeated many times, and I think that Camel GT Racing will miss Al Holbert when he goes away.
Getting down into the late minutes as the shadows stretch across Durango Street in San Antonio and the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. Bob Barsham, David Hobbs, and Marty Reed, happy to have you with us. Al Holbert of Warrington, Pennsylvania, second-generation Porsche driver. His father, Bob Holbert, ran Porsches for a number of years at SCCA and Camel GT Racing. His father now and again comes to the racetrack to help out in the pits. Al calls him the best pit strategist he has ever known.
His father, of course, was a very successful Porsche driver, and of course they have a Porsche Audi dealership up there in Warrington as well, so Porsche is well and truly could be said to be running in the veins of Al Holbert. That right front fender there looks a little bit suspect. As it goes over bumps, you can see it flapping. We saw them taping that up at one of their earlier pit stops, and I don't think it's going to cause any real harm, but every now and then you just see it give a bit of a flap as they go over a bump.
Those pieces of blue tape are coming up, and the bodywork beginning to come loose, but we're getting into the waning minutes here in San Antonio, and there's very little more that Al Holbert has to accomplish. Back in San Antonio and the Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio, first venture by the Camel GT Series into Texas. And you're watching Al Holbert, who has taken over after Derek Bell and Chip Robinson did yeoman work in the number 14 Porsche 962. Al Holbert has now taken over first place, and it looks as though things are going to go their way as just a few laps remain in the race.
Doc Bundy there in the car number 22 is making up ground on him, and is probably going to put himself one less lap down. There we see the Camel Light leader, number 01, going past the 43 Fab car. Fairly tight overtaking move there, and in front of them is the 42 Fab car, which has been laying smoke and oil on the track for about an hour now. I imagine it's everybody's most popular car out there.
Well, Don Bell and Jeff Klein in the 01 Pontiac Fiero will probably part ways next year. Jeff Klein wants to move up to the GTP class, while Don Bell thinks he might want to just stay with Camel Lights, the lightweight prototype cars that have given us some pretty exciting racing. As a result of today's event, it's possible for Don Klein to move up on Chip Mead in second place in the Camel Lights driver's standings. Jim Downing will continue to lead, and it remains tied with 5 drivers still having a shot at the championship. There you see the number 1 Porsche and the unmistakable orange helmet inside of A.J. Foyt, who has been putting in a lot of time in this car today. Surprising considering he got very little practice time with the team, David.
Yes, of course, he should have been at the lake. As you said, he wanted to go fishing, but Al Hulbert called him up to drive the second car. They wanted to have a really good, strong team this weekend to really cement and help Chip Robinson's quest for the lead of the championship, which they've successfully done. And I think AJ's had a good time down here. Obviously, he's got a lot of adulation from a Texas crowd here in San Antonio. They've enjoyed having him in town, and I think he's enjoyed being here. And he's had, you know, just a nice stint in the car around the streets.
You mentioned that that car was entered in part to help take away points from the Dyson team if it could, and that's exactly what it has done by taking second place in the class. It's taken away about 5 points that Bryce Cobb would have been able to salvage with their finish in class. Now, the points for the driver championship are awarded in class, and with only 7 cars starting the race, obviously Bryce Cobb was not about to finish out in the top 10. AJ has succeeded, along with Al Hulbert, who started the car, in bumping the Dyson car another place back.
Yeah. The Price Cobb, I feel very sorry for. I mean, it was very unlucky that Johnny Dumfries, of all people, should get offline and hit the wall like that. But it's just one of those things in racing, and obviously people do make mistakes. I mean, mechanics leave wheels off and leave rag in things and undo wires, and drivers do the same sort of things.
Now here you see the second place Camel Light car, the 43 car, and he's drafting along in that oil wash of the 42 sister car up ahead.
Well, if that car number 43 is second, that will also help the Don Bell Klein car, won't it? Because that'll keep points away from Jim Downing, who at the moment leads the championship. So that'll help to open that championship up as we go to the last 2 races at Columbus and out in San Clemente, not San Clemente. Where are we going? San Diego.
But in between, we have Columbus to come, and that will be an all-important race for Bryce Cobb, who won that race 2 years ago, co-driving with Drake Olson. Bryce Cobb will have to come back and have a strong race in Columbus, and you'll see that race here on ESPN.
Al Hulbert taking a very, very strange line, strange to us. Obviously, he's got a good reason for it. As he comes out of that hairpin, I would imagine he's trying to avoid the worst of the bumps. He must be. And that he's not in any particular hurry at this particular time. He's just really babying that car. He'll take a great deal of care passing the 43 and the 42 car here in front of him.
We mentioned that a victory today would be Al Hulbert's 49th in Camel GT competition. It would also be the 4th career victory for Chip Robinson, his 3rd win of the year, and it would be the 18th career victory for Derek Bell, his 2nd of the year, driving limited duty with the Hulbert Racing team.
Derek Bell won 18 of these races. Absolutely nauseating.
Ah, yes, your old buddy Derek Bell. He said nice things about you earlier in the broadcast, too.
He did.
Al Hulbert from Warrington, Pennsylvania, who owns these cars. Owns, as David mentioned, a Porsche dealership up in Warrington, PA, that he shares with his father, and is the director of Porsche Motorsport North America. The man probably most associated with Porsche, at least here in the United States. We'd also point out he has a couple of Le Mans victories to his credit as well.
This is true, 2 of them, of course, with the aforementioned D. Bell, Esquire, who has won 5 Le Mans.
5 for Derek. I believe Al has won 2 of them, the last 2 in a row with Derek, who incidentally came back in both of those years and won the 24 Hours at Daytona together.
Yes, in fact, after having won the 24-hour race at Le Mans this year, Derek and Al, between them, had each won 96 hours of racing by winning the last 2 Le Mans and the last Daytona race. Quite extraordinary record.
I shudder to try to total up the numbers of hours of racing that Al Hulbert has won at Daytona alone. He also won the 3-hour finale there last year.
Well, he's going to win another 3-hour. Looks like he's going to win another 3-hour now. Obviously, there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, but with only 10 minutes to go, he should be in pretty good shape.
It must be getting awfully rough on those drivers as that tremendous searing Texas sun hits them in between little bits of dark shade as it grows very late here on a Texas afternoon in San Antonio.
Well, I think the bouncing around here is getting tough on these drivers too. We saw that with young Darren Brasfield. When he got out of the car, he was obviously pretty physically tired, and I think that the bumping around, the heat, and the constant movement of the steering wheel and the gear shift and this sort of thing it's very, very hard work. And driving race cars is not like driving your family's sedan down the freeway. It really isn't. And there we see Al Holbert coming again around that very typical left-hand sweep. You're braking and turning at the same time on a very slippery highway, braking hard onto that sharp right-hander onto the pit straight situated here on Alamo Street.
Should this carve victory, and Al Holbert is also notorious for running up a lot of victories with race cars, it would be the 9th victory for this particular chassis. Chassis number 103. We mentioned earlier that the 67 Porsche car was 106. This is 103. We'll now have 9 victories and lots of racing miles. In that picture, you're seeing a brace of champions. We see the leaders in both the GTP and the Camel Lights category, ironically very similarly painted, as Don Bell and Jeff Klein in the 01 Pontiac Fiero take up a position behind the Porsche 962, and we are on the last lap here at San Antonio.
How ironic it is, because if I was Don Bell and Jeff Klein, I was going to paint a car. I'd probably paint it blue and white.
The last lap here at San Antonio will be, I believe, the 143rd lap run around this very difficult 1.67 mile race course, as Jim Downing is passed by Al Holbert. He has just to make the right turn onto Alamo Street, and Al Holbert joins with Derek Bell and Chip Robinson in becoming the winners of the inaugural Nissan Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. There you see the happy crew at pitside, and some 40,000 fans turning out here for the first street race in San Antonio, the first street race in Texas history. A good one.
Yeah, a very good win, a tremendous win for Al Holbert. Is this at the Grand Prix at Dallas?
I take that back, you're right. The Formula One boys ran at Dallas a couple of years back.
But a very successful event, I would say, well received by the people of San Antonio. The hotel balconies full of people looking at the races.
There is your Camel Lights leader as well. Jeff Klein out of Topanga, California, and Don Bell out of Rolling Hills, California, in their AT&T Collins and Aikman Pontiac Fiero GTP car.
A very strong little car, that. And this is the car, as I said earlier on, we're going to see a big brother of that in 1988. They're going to have a very, very similar car to that, but with a bigger engine, a 6-liter, normally aspirated Pontiac engine, with which they're going to combat the GTP class.
Which is not that great a technological step either. That Pontiac Spice Fiero chassis runs over in Europe in the C2 class for smaller prototypes on the World Endurance Circuit, running with great big Ford Cosworth V8s. We'll be back. Winners will bring you all the results of the San Antonio Grand Prix after this. Have made their way to victory lane, and Marty Reed is standing by with them now.
2 of the 3 victorious drivers are down here. Al Holbert's going to let the 2 main guys who did all the work today share the spotlight. And I got to tell you, Derek Bell did the right thing as he comes up. He's the only one who grabs Pam Meadows, Miss Camel, and kisses her. You know, you always seem to know what to do.
Yeah, well, I knew if I got near her, she'd want to put one of those beautiful hats on my head. It makes me look stupider than that. But it's on right now, and AJ's pulled my hand off her rear end, so I better be careful.
You guys drove a well-disciplined race, really did a super job.
Yeah.
And then we were talking with Chip just a little while ago about how quickly all of a sudden people started dropping out like flies.
Yeah, you have to be terribly disciplined on this sort of a track. You can't afford to take too many chances. You have to drive it very, very sensibly, and just concentrate all the time. You couldn't afford to let up once or twice. I started to think about something further around the track, and I thought, no, I got to come back to the meter in front of me, because you just had to think every second. We were going very, very fast through the turns, and if you went offline by more than a couple of feet, which sounds a lot, I know, but if you're out there, you were in heaps of trouble.
Chip, 26-point lead going into the Columbus race October 4th. You got to feel real good.
Well, I feel much better than I did coming into San Antonio, that's for sure. But there's 2 races left, and anything can happen. It's still a wide open race, and we're going to have to really be careful at Columbus.
Only 45 more victories too, and you catch Al Holbert.
That's going to be a while.
Congratulations, AJ Foyt coming in to congratulate him. It's a happy victory circle.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Marty. Let's take a look at the race summary of today's Camel Grand Prix of San Antonio. The winner, Al Holbert, teamed with Chip Robinson and Derek Bell. Virtually a 20-second margin as Al just basically hit the cruise control and brought it on in by a couple of laps in lead. One car by itself, the winning Holbert racing car. Only 2 leaders all day long. The Dyson Racing Starcross Porsche of Johnny Dumfries, Bryce Cobb. 4 lead changes between that car and the winners. As a result of it all, Chip Robinson will go into Columbus, which you'll see here on ESPN, with a handy 26-point lead over Bryce Cobb, who's going to have a victory at Columbus. Tough race for the Dyson Racing team, David.
Absolutely. It was just one of those days that they really could have done without. And they got off to such a great start, and then that one little mistake by Johnny Dumfries completely ruined Bryce Cobb's chances.
Now let's take a look at the top 5 in each class. David, I'll let you do the honors in the GTP class.
Well, there we see the GTP car 14, Robinson, Bell, Holbert. The second car, Holbert and Foyt in their second car. 22, Doc Bundy, Van der Merwe, who were on the pole so well, ended up third. 10th was the Adams Hotchkiss car that we saw running well, and Bell and Klein were the first Camel Light and 5th overall.
And there you see the victors in Camel Lights. Don Bell and Jeff Klein doing well in points right now. Chip Meade and Tim McAdam, followed by the winner's McKittrick car. Jim Downing, the reigning points champion, hanging in there with John Mafucci, and the Tom Hessert David Loring car in 5th position. For David Hobbs and Marty Reed, I'm Bob Varsha. So long from San Antonio.